She was left behind, abandoned in enemy territory, with no backup, no support, and no way to call for help.
Her own command believed she was dead. But for 11 days, she survived alone, fought back, and refused to give up. Until finally, special forces found her and brought her home. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Sergeant Laura Reeves was 28 years old. She had short brown hair, sharp blue eyes, and hands that never shook, even when the world around her was falling apart. She was a combat medic. She had also trained as a sniper. Her team called her Steady because no matter what happened, she never panicked. Her unit of 6 soldiers was sent on a simple mission: walk through a quiet valley near the border, check for enemy movement, report back. Nothing more. That was the plan. The plan did not survive the first hour.
An explosion tore through the front vehicle. Then gunfire came from every direction. The enemy had been waiting. They had planned this ambush for days. Laura's truck flipped onto its side. She was thrown into the dirt, her ribs cracked, her ears ringing.
She crawled behind a broken wall. Bullets cut through the air above her head. She could hear her teammates screaming. She could hear enemy voices shouting in victory. When the smoke cleared a little, she saw her truck burning. She saw 2 of her friends lying still on the ground. Her radio crackled. It was her commander, far away, giving the order to retreat. All units, pull back immediately. Enemy forces are too strong. We cannot hold this position. Laura tried to answer. Her radio could receive messages, but it could not send them. She pressed the button again and again. Nothing worked.
Then she heard the words that changed everything. Reeves is not responding. We lost visual on her position. Presume she did not survive. All units, withdraw now. They thought she was dead. They were leaving without her.
Laura wanted to scream, but she stayed silent. Screaming would only bring the enemy to her hiding spot. She lay still behind the broken wall and watched the last friendly vehicles drive away in the distance. The dust from their tires slowly disappeared. Then there was only silence, and the sound of enemy soldiers searching through the wreckage of her convoy.
She was alone.
Laura checked what she had left. Her rifle, with 1 full magazine and 1 half-empty one. Her pistol, with 2 magazines. A small first aid kit. A knife. A little water. No food. Her GPS device was smashed. Her map was gone. She took a breath and pushed the fear down. Panic would kill her faster than any bullet. She had trained for years for situations exactly like this. Now, it was time to use that training. She waited until the enemy soldiers moved away from the wreckage, searching in the wrong direction. Then she crawled backward, slow and quiet, into the tall grass behind her. She did not run. Running made noise, and noise brought death. After 2 hours of careful crawling and walking, she reached a small hill covered in rocks. From there, she could see the whole valley. She saw enemy trucks moving. She saw soldiers walking in lines, searching the ground for survivors. She stayed low and watched. She wrapped her ribs tightly with cloth from her medical kit. She cleaned the cuts on her arms. The pain was strong, but she had felt worse before. She forced herself to think clearly. Which way was home? She remembered the direction her convoy had driven from that morning. If she walked west, she should eventually reach territory controlled by her own side. It was far, maybe 200 kilometers, but it was the only plan she had. That night, she began to walk. Laura moved only at night. During the day, she hid in bushes, in small caves, under fallen trees, anywhere the sun could not reveal her. She used the stars to find her direction, just like her father had taught her when she was a child, camping in the mountains. She drank water from small streams, using tablets from her kit to make it safe. She ate almost nothing. Her body grew weaker, but her mind stayed sharp. On the 3rd night, she heard helicopters flying low over the hills. Enemy helicopters. They were searching for her. That told her something important. They knew someone had survived the attack. They were looking for her specifically. She moved even more carefully after that. On the 5th day, Laura was resting in a shallow ditch when she heard voices.
A large group of enemy soldiers, maybe 25 of them, was walking through the same area. They were between her and the direction she needed to go.
She had two choices: wait for hours until they passed, or find another way around. But going around would take days she did not have. Her water was running low.
She made a bold decision. She would follow them from a safe distance, using their noise to hide her own movement, and look for a chance to slip past them.
As she watched from the bushes, she heard something on their radio. A voice repeated a message in a language she partly understood. "The female soldier is confirmed alive. Capture her. Do not kill her. She may have valuable information." Laura's blood went cold. They knew her exact identity. They wanted her alive, which meant something far worse than a quick death. It meant they wanted to question her, to hurt her for answers.
At that moment, something changed inside her. She was tired of running. She was tired of being the one who was hunted. She decided to fight back.
Laura studied the group of soldiers for almost an hour. She noticed one man walking near the back, carrying extra ammunition and supplies. He had fallen behind the others by almost 30 meters.
She moved to higher ground, found a clear shooting position, and waited for the right moment.
When he was far enough from his group, she fired one shot. He fell instantly. Before anyone could react, Laura had already moved to a new hiding spot 50 meters away. The soldiers panicked. They did not know where the shot came from. They fired wildly into the trees, hitting nothing. Their group broke apart in confusion. Laura waited quietly, watching them regroup. Once they calmed down and began moving again, she struck a second time, hitting their radio operator from a distance. Now they could not call for help. Without communication and without their ammunition carrier, the group became afraid. They turned around and began retreating toward their base. But Laura had already moved ahead of them, using a narrow path between two large rocks as her final trap. When they reached the narrow path, she fired several more rounds into the group. In the chaos, the soldiers scattered in every direction, running for their lives. One soldier, with only a rifle and less than 20 bullets, had defeated a group of 25 armed men, without even being seen clearly. Word of the attack spread through the enemy camps quickly. They began calling her the Ghost. Soldiers whispered stories about an invisible enemy who struck without warning and disappeared without a trace. Over the next several days, Laura continued her quiet war. She damaged a supply truck using materials she found near a destroyed enemy checkpoint. She avoided direct fights whenever she could, striking only when necessary, and always disappearing before anyone could find her. One evening, she found a small enemy camp near a water source, the kind of place soldiers used to refill their bottles before long patrols. She waited until the camp was quiet, then carefully placed a substance into their water supply, something that would make the soldiers sick for days without causing lasting harm. It was not a weapon of destruction. It was a weapon of delay, and delay was exactly what she needed. She also began listening carefully to enemy radio chatter, learning their codes and patterns. Using this knowledge, she sent false reports over their own channels, directing patrols toward empty hillsides and abandoned roads. Confused commanders sent soldiers chasing shadows, wasting hours searching places where nothing existed. Every wasted hour was an hour they were not spending hunting her, and an hour her own side had to find her. Laura was no longer just surviving. She was fighting a smart, quiet war, using her mind as much as her rifle, turning a small handful of resources into a real threat that an entire enemy sector could not ignore. But her body was failing. She had not eaten properly in over a week. Her wounds were healing slowly because she never had time to rest. Her ammunition was almost gone. On the 8th day, Laura ran into her most dangerous moment yet. She was crossing a narrow valley when she came face to face with a small enemy checkpoint, blocking the only path forward. There was open ground on both sides, so she could not go around without being seen. She had to fight, but she chose to fight smart. She watched the checkpoint from a distance for almost 3 hours. She noticed the guards changed every 4 hours, and during the change, their attention was divided between the new guards arriving and the old guards leaving. That short window was her chance. When the guard change began, Laura moved into position on a small ridge overlooking the checkpoint. She fired first at the soldier holding the heavy weapon, dropping him before he could use it. Then she fired 2 more shots toward the checkpoint leader, causing panic among the rest of the group. The remaining soldiers fired back blindly, unable to see where the shots were coming from. Laura shifted position quickly, staying low, and fired again, hitting 2 more soldiers who had stepped into open ground trying to find her. The last 3 guards broke and ran, leaving the checkpoint completely empty. Laura moved in fast. She took extra ammunition, a small amount of food, some clean water, and, most importantly, a working radio left behind by the fleeing soldiers. She knew staying near the checkpoint was dangerous, since gunfire always brought more enemy forces, so she moved quickly, putting several kilometers between herself and the battle before stopping to rest. That night, sitting in a hidden spot surrounded by trees, Laura finally allowed herself a small moment of hope. She now had food, water, ammunition, and a radio. For the first time since the ambush, she felt like she had a real chance of making it home. She ate a small amount of the food carefully, knowing her body needed time to adjust after days without proper meals. Then she checked the radio, testing different frequencies quietly, saving her strength for the next part of her journey. On the 10th day, Laura finally turned on the radio she had captured, hoping to find any signal from her own side. She switched through channels for almost an hour before finding a frequency she recognized. She pressed the button and spoke as clearly as she could. "Any friendly forces, this is Sergeant Laura Reeves. I am alive. My convoy was destroyed 10 days ago. I have been evading capture and operating alone since then. I do not know my exact location, but I am moving west. Please, if anyone hears this, send help." She repeated the message 3 times on different channels, then destroyed the radio so the enemy could not use it to find her. She did not know if anyone had heard her, but it was the only chance she had. Far away, at a military base, a communications officer picked up Laura's signal. At first, no one believed it. She had been listed as killed in action more than a week earlier. But the message matched details only someone who had actually been there would know. And reports had been coming in for days about strange attacks on enemy patrols in that exact area. Someone was fighting back out there, alone. A senior officer studied the reports carefully. If she has survived this long, alone, with no supplies, and she is still fighting, we owe her everything we have. Prepare a rescue team. Drones were sent to search the area. They found signs of the battles Laura had fought, destroyed checkpoints, scattered enemy patrols, and then, on a hillside, they found something remarkable. Rocks arranged into letters and numbers, spelling out coordinates and a time. Laura had left a message, telling any rescuer exactly where and when to find her. That night, 2 helicopters flew low across the dark hills, avoiding enemy radar. A team of highly trained soldiers sat inside, ready for anything. When they reached the coordinates, they saw Laura standing on a small hill, weapon raised, watching the sky. Around her lay the results of one final battle, fought only hours before, when a small enemy group had tried to reach her position. She had survived that fight too, using her last bullets and, finally, her bare hands. When the helicopters landed, Laura lowered her weapon and walked toward them, exhausted but standing tall. "Sergeant Reeves," the team leader said, "we are here to bring you home." Laura managed a tired smile. "Took you long enough." They lifted off just minutes before enemy trucks arrived at the same hill, drawn by the noise of the helicopters. But by then, Laura was already flying safely back toward friendly territory. During the flight home, a medic tried to check her injuries. She waved him away calmly. "Broken ribs. Mostly healed. A few cuts. I will be fine." "Ma'am," the medic said, "you survived 11 days alone in enemy territory. Most people would not survive 11 hours." Laura looked out the window at the dark hills disappearing behind them. "They left me behind and called me dead. I was not about to prove them right." When she landed, senior officers were waiting for her. They told her that her actions had confused and weakened enemy operations across a large area for almost 2 weeks. She had destroyed supplies meant for several outposts, defeated dozens of enemy soldiers, and forced them to pull soldiers away from other important battles just to search for her. One general told her directly, "What you did was not luck. It was skill, courage, and refusal to give up. We want you to join a special unit that trains for exactly this kind of mission." Laura thought about everything that had happened, the fear, the pain, the moments she thought she would die alone in unknown land. But she had survived, and she had done it by never accepting defeat.
"Yes, sir," she said. "I will join."
Laura became one of the most respected members of her new unit. She trained other soldiers in survival and independent combat skills. Whenever a new recruit heard the story of her 11 days alone, they always asked the same question. "Is it true you defeated dozens of enemy soldiers all by yourself?" Laura would always give the same calm answer. "Numbers do not matter. What matters is this. Being abandoned does not mean you are defeated. Being called dead does not mean you have to die. When you are alone with nothing left, you still have one choice. You can give up, or you can fight until someone comes to find you."
She always finished with the same words.
I chose to fight, and I chose to survive long enough for someone to realize they were wrong about me. Her story became a lesson taught to every new soldier in her unit. It was proof that even when you are left with nothing but your own will to survive, that alone can be enough to change everything. Because sometimes the most dangerous person on the battlefield is the one everyone believes is already gone.